Tax attorney John Heyer here, and in an interesting turn of events, even the Wall Street Journal says maybe you should file a paper tax return instead of an electronic one. February 5th was the date of the article. I've been saying this for some time. They added a really important reason. Let's walk through it. When you file a paper return, you can prove the date you sent it, and the date you sent it is the filing date. So as long as you send it on time, the fact that the IRS doesn't receive it for a month and doesn't process it for 5 years because they've been known to lose things or not process them, happened a lot during COVID, doesn't matter. You file a paper return. I would be paranoid. I would take pictures of the return. I would literally film yourself putting the return in the envelope. I'd put an odd little mark like a check or a check and an X on the envelope so that it's recognizable. I would then put certified mail return receipt. I would take a picture of that, a picture of the envelope right before it gets sent, certified mail return receipt. Why would I be that paranoid? I've been in audits where the IRS says, well, we don't know what's in that envelope. Maybe you put sawdust in there. We don't know. So film yourself putting the return in there, distinctly mark the envelope, send it certified mail return receipt. Why? Because the send date is the date that matters. But when you electronically file, it's when the IRS accepts the return that is the date. So let's say you file at the last minute, not that entrepreneurs would ever procrastinate on things like filing their returns. Let's say you file on time, but the IRS does not accept your electronic return for whatever reason. You got a problem. There's an actual case out there where someone filed an electronic return. The IRS rejected it. He filed on time, but the time stamp is not until the IRS accepts, not when he files. That's different from mailing. The IRS decided not to accept the return because he put a social security number in the employer identification number box. Now that's a trivial error, or at least it was. But then the IRS said, no, your return is incomplete. You put a social security number in the EIN box. That's an incomplete return, rejected. Taxpayer goes to court and loses. Common sense says they would win, but if you look at how the statute is written, paper returns are deemed filed when actually sent. You have control over when they're sent. Electronic returns are accepted when received by the IRS and acknowledged by them. You have no control over that. That's a reason to file paper. Let me give you a few more that I've discussed over the years. A, when you send an electronic return, all the data goes into their data bank. When it's paper, they have data input, not all the data gets put in. Second, their delay is not your problem. Let's say I send a return on paper. I can prove the date I sent it. The IRS does not look at it due to their own incompetence for 6 months. Statute of limitations is running, typically 3 years, sometimes 6 years. Statute is running. If they want to take their time to enter it into their database, not my issue. And finally, this will appeal to the libertarians out there. It costs them time and money, and they don't like it, and they're overwhelmed with paper returns. Now, what's one reason you might not want to file a paper return? In which case, you want to file an electronic return with plenty of time so that if there's an issue, you know it. If you are relying on the IRS to confirm data, for example, for student aid on the FAFSA or for a loan, in that case, you want the information in their system as soon as possible. You want to file electronic, and you want to do it a lot sooner than later. So there are always trade-offs. But now even the Wall Street Journal is saying you really may want to file the paper return because you have control over the filing date with a paper return, but not with an electronic return. Checkbook LLCs, let's talk about them for a few hours. What they do, what they don't do. Puerto Rico, April 20th and 21st, taxreductionlawyer.com.